Are you ready for the weekend?
I'm ready.
Are you ready for the weekend?
I'm ready. Oh, sorry.
Whoa, we're spiking the mics.
Sorry.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Prepper Talk Radio here on K-Talk 1640. Find us at ktalkmedia.com. Our website is preppertalkradio.com. We have product reviews. We've got some gear links there for you to find. And, of course, we're all brought to you by Survival Medical, the only first aid kit that's actually going to get you through what you want to go through. They're tougher than nature. They're first aid evolved. It's got a 20-year shelf life, and they just go. We've got, in my car right now, I've got a Voyager, 2 on-the-move kits, and a backcountry ultralight.
Wow, you're loaded up.
And, I've also got the hazmat, hazard material, whatever.
Oh, yeah, the cover-up kit.
Cover-up kit.
Yeah, I've got a cover-up. I've got a on-the-move and backcountry light.
I think it's funny how we go get gear, and sometimes we forget about the gear that we get. Then we go get more gear, right?
It's always the case for me.
With first aid, I went and got all the gear, and usually I go through the cycle every year and a half. I get all new first aid gear. Well, not all new, but mostly new. It's nice
stuff, at least, yeah.
that now I'm only getting stuff when I reuse. You know, I'll need to get a new on-the-move kit because I used one last week, helping with the accident that I came across. But it's interesting how those simple things affect us all the time, but we don't think about it from day to day. Well, most of us don't. Don't think about, what do I need? What do I need to have? What should I have? What shouldn't I have? What do I need to replace? What's going bad? But this is National Preparedness Month. September is the month of being prepared.
It's an appropriate month, I guess, isn't it?
And man, is it ever. This is the most, I think, appropriate we've ever seen September be for preparedness.
My question is to all of you, is there anyone out there who is not a prepper now? I mean, literally, seriously, with everything that's going on.
And remember, preppers, it's huge spectrum, right? Everything from the doomsday preppers at one end, and that's like way far one end, to I've got a little 72-hour kit.
Or you have a little bit more of a mindset that's telling you, hey, maybe I should prepare a little more. I mean, that's the beginning stages of a prepper, right?
So let's kind of rehash a little about what's going on disaster-wise, worldwide right now, because it's kind of up there.
And that's kind of why I asked that question is there anyone out there who doesn't have preparedness on their mind? I mean, seriously, are you not watching the news at all? Yeah, hooray! That's good for you.
Do you still not care?
Yeah, or do you still not care at all? I mean, if you're listening to this station, most likely you do, and we applaud you for that. And thank you for listening to Radio for the Ready-Minded. We like to call ourselves that, and it really comes down to a state of mind.
And thank you, new listeners. I mean, we've got a bunch of new listeners that have been reaching out to us, thanking us for the show. Hey, you are why we're doing this show. Everyone that's listening, we do this show to impart what we've learned and also to bring on the experts that we know to give you the right information. Today is a continuation of last week. We're going to really dig into the gear that you need. The gear that we have, as an example.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to talk about specific brand names and everything. I mean, as detailed as you want.
And we're also going to bag on some products as well.
Yeah.
Some products that everyone's like, I got to have one of those. And the reality is that's a piece of garbage. Don't get that.
Yeah.
But with all the stuff that's going on, I mean, okay, so we had Harvey. We've got Irma.
And
she was a Category 5 last night. She's a 4 now.
Oh, she dropped her 4. Okay.
Thankfully, but that doesn't
fix
much. But she's twice the size, a little bit more than twice the size Andrew was back in the 90s.
Yeah, I saw pictures, yeah.
Now, right behind her is her lonely, sad boyfriend who's missing her. Jose, and he's chasing after her. And he's a Category 4, I believe.
Already? Because I think it was tropical storm just turning into hurricane.
He was a 3 yesterday.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm behind.
My wife gives me the news report as I'm driving here this morning. Oh, that's been upgraded, and this one's been downgraded. And, did you hear about
That's awesome.
The earthquake off of Mexico?
I need someone to relay information to me.
I'm like, what? And she goes, yeah, there was a level 8 earthquake off the coast of Mexico, which means tsunamis.
And I think that's what we need to talk about most is that, obviously down in Florida right now, the hurricane is their biggest threat, right? They don't necessarily have earthquakes out there.
Well, having lived there, it's totally different. Like, we see it and we're like, holy crap. The Floridians, like the true Floridians, are like, okay,
Another one.
I'm going to lose crap again. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But they kind of know the drill. But anyone that's moved their transplant since like 2000,
Right. Maybe
they're probably
freaking
freaking out.
Way, yeah.
Because this is huge. Nothing like this has happened down there. It's unprecedented.
There's a lot of retirees down there, so you'd think that they would be a little more prepared.
They're
be a
actually
little more
home
aware.
right now.
Okay.
A lot of them, because most of them are the snowbird style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
Some
okay.
of them are year round, but
okay.
most of them are snowbird style. So they're
So
there
up
during
in-
the winter.
Mm-hmm. And head down
They're
there
going to be coming down next month after the hurricane season ends
Makes sense.
to find, do they have stuff still.
Mm-hmm.
But we look at that here in Utah and we're like, holy crap. But then now we have all the fun earthquakes going on in Idaho and southern Utah. Last night we had a 4.3 down by Lake Powell.
Mm-hmm.
We've had the swarm going up by Soda Springs, Idaho. I think they're over 120 earthquakes at this point.
So we know that's what's coming here next. I mean, that's what we're due for. Up in Idaho, we talk about, okay, all these different earthquakes. Are they building up to one larger earthquake, or are they releasing pressure, right? So we're not seeing that on the Wasatch Front. I mean, there are occasionally, you watch the app there, I forget the name of that app, but it'll tell you when there's small earthquakes, nearby. We're just not seeing a lot of that stuff right now. So that tells me we need to prepare for an earthquake. We know we're overdue. I mean, that's common knowledge. But are we taking it seriously, becoming prepared for that earthquake? Because that's what we're going to have. I mean, that's what is going to happen to us here. Besides financial turmoil and social turmoil and all that kind of stuff, we're going to have an earthquake.
Yep. Woohoo! Sounds so exciting, doesn't it?
What that, Scott? Yes, we're going to have an earthquake.
We're going to Disneyland. No, we're having an earthquake. So don't freak out. Don't be worried. I think the big takeaway, what we're trying to impart is to be aware.
Mm-hmm.
The big takeaway is to take steps today. If you haven't already done so, take steps today to get your family better prepared. In the case of a hurricane, in the case of a earthquake, in the case of a fire. I mean, look at all the fires going on up north. I mean, that's not even talking about in mainstream media. Montana, Oregon, Washington, Idaho are burning.
It's crazy.
And the firefighters that I've read about, a lot of them are saying, this is a fire that's not going to get put out by us. It won't go out until the snow season starts.
Oh, wow.
It's so big and uncontrollable. And those are going to bleed into Canada, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's nothing stopping it. So what is the mindset now? Well, it better be get
overall.
prepared.
Yeah, it better be. Overall, better be. Maybe I should look at the risks that we have here locally and get a little bit more prepared for that.
And set aside your 72-hour kit, your bug-out bag, your inch bag, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big proponent of a 96-hour bag.
Mm-hmm.
And all of mine are bags for two.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk about, last week we talked about EDC. This week we're going to talk more about kind of our bags, kind of the tools that we have like in our cars, at home. Like, we're going to be in a situation where we're going to have to shelter in place for a while unless our shelter gets destroyed. And many people all over the place, I mean, you're relocating to shelter, so you're bugging out, especially those in Florida that are under mandatory evacuation. You're bugging out to a new location. That's the only time you should bug out.
And I think that's something we need to talk a little bit about is that, my mindset is, I'm staying. I'm not going, I'm prepared. I'm not leaving my home base. I'm going to be stubborn. I'm staying here. But, I'm really thinking about that a little bit more after, these hurricanes.
Mm-hmm.
What it would really, truly, forget my pride, forget, all that kind of stuff. What is really the right decision? Is it best for me to take my family and leave? And do I have a place prepared to go? And so I am taking, and I think, Scott, we've been talking about this, taking steps to prepare another location, another place to go. I don't have friends or family in remote locations. I'm working on that.
Mm-hmm.
That's my next plan is to prepare call it a bug out location, call it a second home or whatever, vacation,
whatever. Safe haven.
Exactly, a safe haven in a different part, or not too far away, but not too close either.
Well, I think the key there is you're not just running out into nowhere.
Exactly.
I think a lot of people hear the term bug out and they think it means running out into nowhere. Well, it came from the military term to bug out or relocate. It's a strategic relocation to a fallback position, safe zone. It's safe zone is the key, right? It's got resources. It's a place where everyone knows to go. I mean, otherwise you're going out into the wild to die.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Really, that's what it is.
Survive for a short period of time and then have a really difficult time of it after that.
Yeah. So, talking about tools, talking about gear, before we go into the break, let's jump into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we finished up really talking about kind of the things you should be carrying in your EDC, your kind of your on your person, in your bag for work. Maybe have some in your desk or whatever.
And I think the point is to just think about what you need. You realize, okay, I don't have this on me. I could use that. Okay, so let me make that a habit of start carrying a pocket knife. Let me make that a habit of start carrying a little something extra that I don't usually have with
extra
me.
Cash, a multi-tool.
Yeah, whatever it is. Don't rely on I can just go to the store and get that if I need it, right?
Exactly.
If I really need an emergency, I can just go buy that. I don't subscribe to that whatsoever. I make sure that I have it before I need it.
So, number one, radio.
Radio, okay. Communication of some sort.
Communications. And there's two types of radios that I think you should have. And if you've got one radio that does both, that's great. I've got some small Baofeng radios, UV5Fs. They're great because
two-way radio.
I can use them as a two-way radio, but I can also tune in to FM stations.
Weather and...
So I can get the weather reports. I can see what's going on. The things I like about them is that they're ultralight, they're super portable.
They're inexpensive.
So you can get
anybody
five
can get
for $100.
For one for each people in your family, each of the adults in your family, yeah.
And then I got Faraday bags for each one. And we put them in the backpacks.
Awesome.
I've got one in my truck under the seat. The thing I don't like about them is they've got very limited range. Right?
The power is just not great power, not great wattage, not very high wattage.
So they're a 1.5 watt, but right now I've got them tuned down to half a watt.
Right,
I have to change them back, but until I get my ham license, I'm not allowed to do that. So, but I've tuned them down. But the cool thing is this: those radios and most radios you're going to work with, if you're in the city, you're going to have a lot of interference, which cuts down your range. After a disaster, guess what happens to your interference?
Most of that goes away. A lot of it goes away.
Any of the electrical interference, like electrical
and what's so nice about those type of FRS radios, they're kind of like a ham radio, but you can use some of these frequencies you can use without a license.
Yeah.
And there are so many different channels, you're not going to get interference. Like if you have the little FRS two-way radios, you got, 40 stations with 7 sub-channels, something like that.
22 stations with 4 sub-channels on each one.
And so those
that's
what
I've got mine set at.
Okay.
But
it's similar. Yeah, that's true. You've got it tuned in.
These have double the range of those.
And a lot more different frequencies
and I can also
as well.
punch in different
frequency codes and such.
Now, you got a way better system than I have. I mean, you are ham licensed, so you've got your car kit.
Yeah, no, I've got a mobile mounted in my vehicle, so it's got the power from the engine, from the battery. It's 65 watts. It's an ICOM is the brand I love. ICOM, I like Yaesu. There's a lot of really good brands out there. There are a lot of the less expensive brands like the Baofeng. You can still get those in a mobile.
Baofeng's great for your beginning. I would definitely go to ICOM.
But if you don't have the budget, it's better to have 2 or 3 or 5 of these than to have nothing.
And have backups.
So far, they've proven to be pretty reliable for especially for how inexpensive they are.
Oh yeah.
So jump on Amazon and type in BAOFENG Baofeng. They're of course they're made in China, but they are very inexpensive. And there's our music.
Remember, you're listening to Prepper Talk Radio, radio for the ready-minded, brought to you by Survival Medical. That's survival-medical.com. Get your kits today before it's too late. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this message from our sponsors. Welcome back to Prepper Talk Radio, K-Talk 1640, brought to you by Survival Medical, survival-medical.com. Check them out today. You will not regret it. One of the things I love about them is it's got a 20-year shelf life. And in today's times of uncertainty, that's an investment that I would like to have other than pulling out of the stock market and putting into food storage.
Don't get me started.
I know. We can go on for days. Today we're talking about the gear.
Yes.
We're talking about the gear that's mistakes and the gear that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talk a lot about skills, and skills are obviously super important.
More important than anything else.
Exactly. More important than the gear, because a lot of times you can scrounge the gear. But, we're gearheads. We love talking about gear. You need to know how to use your gear.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, exactly. Just a little bit gearheads. But, where were we at? We left off with...
we just finished up radios.
Okay, radio. Yeah, absolutely. And let's just emphasize that again, communications. And if you can only listen, have a world band radio, right? To monitor high frequency and shortwave and those types, just so you know what's going on and how to make good decisions.
It's great to have battery, an extra battery for your radios. There's also the hand crank radios, which are great for about a day or two, and then they're garbage.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how quality. You can get the really cheap, crappy ones. I say, stay away from those. Those aren't going to. They're fun little toys for the kids, right?
Anything that comes in a 72-hour kit you can go buy at the store,
yeah, absolutely,
is a garbage radio.
Now there's the brand. I think it's Eton, E-T-O-N, with the hyphen over the O. Those tend to be quality, and there are other brands over
actually
out there. Eton, okay. My Spanish is coming out, but those seem to be quality, and I think having something hand crank is important.
It's good.
Solar hand crank, that.
Oh yeah, love solar.
Yeah, and something I have that I use as a backup is the KTOR hand crank generator. We've had those. We give them away at PrepperCon, I think, in years past.
Yeah, we gave a few of those away last year.
Basically, you can plug in an outlet to it, crank it, and you get 110 power. But now they make one that's just for USB too.
Yep, and they also have a pedal one.
They have a pedal one as well. Yep.
That one, I like that concept better because
it's so hard to crank that.
To hand crank that to keep 110
for an hour.
Yeah,
it's brutal.
It's mind-numbingly horrible.
But okay, if you think about I need to charge my phone to get an emergency call out. Crank that for a few minutes, you can make your call, right? So I
tested it, but it was when my iPhone was going dead.
It's a minute per percent. Every percent it takes 1 minute to get 1%.
It took me 10 minutes to get it to where it would hold a charge long enough to call. Now I've since gotten a better phone, a newer phone, and it'll hold the charge that I'm giving it, but it's still a lot of work to get a little charge.
Not ideal, but it's another tool in the tool basket, right?
See, and I like solar, but then what if you don't have access to solar? What if it's middle of the night?
What if you're in your basement?
Right. So I've got a small solar panel that hangs off my backpack.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I keep that in there at all the times.
Love solar.
So those are things to think about. Now, is it a necessity?
Having a radio?
To have everybody have a solar charger or hand crank charger in your group? No. As long as one person in your group has it. This is where you want to divide and conquer. Like, I have more water filters than my wife does. I also have more food than my wife does. I also carry the heavy tools so that my wife doesn't have to. She has more of the baby stuff, formula, diapers, wipes, Desitin, all that stuff. Like, we've kind of divided and conquered. There's no reason for one of us to carry all of
duplicate,
it, or for both of us to carry the same of everything. So think of that when you're building your kits, because you want to have the things that make the most sense to you. Now, does everybody need their own personal water filter? I think that you should have one for every bag.
Yeah, of course, there's a saying is one is none and two is one. That does stand true in my mind in the way of communications as well as water filters.
Yeah.
Not in everything.
And for your bag purposes, we like two brands, Life Straw and Sawyer. Those are our kind of top two.
And there are a lot of great hiking filters out there, that I love. I'm a backpacker first. I mean, that's where I started in my prepping. It's like camping and backpacking. There's a lot of good brands out there. We have definitely leaned toward the Life Straw products and the Sawyer products.
Like for backpacking, the Sawyer Mini for me is my favorite. I also have Renovo. Renovo does a really good project. Patriot Filters is great. If you want a good standing, gravity fed system, you can get one out of Life Straw, you can get one out of Sawyer, and you can also get the Day One system, and then there's also Berkey. All of those are great products. Make sure you read what that product's capable of,
and how to clean it, and how to take care of it. And my only advice, I guess, on water filters is stay away from the cheap ones. I mean, the really cheap ones. The more you spend in general on pretty much anything, the better quality you're going to get. But do your shopping. Shop around for price.
Do your due diligence.
Do your due diligence. But, yeah, definitely go with the brand names, the ones you recognize, especially on those critical things.
And you can find all the gear reviews you want. On our website, we've got some, but there are also other good ones that we can be posting those on our social media. So you can find the right gear and get it from trusted sources. But there's a lot of things you can do to make life easier. For example, our good friend Cache Valley Prepper posted this yesterday, and I was like absolutely 100% in agreement with him. A lot of people are thinking, I've got a barbecue and I've got propane, so if crap hits the fan, I'm good. Well, a barbecue grill is the least effective cooking heat source because it burns more fuel, and that heat dissipates so fast. Whereas a camp burner is your best,
like a backpacking
backup.
type stove,
a backpacking stove, or even the little Coleman fold open ones.
Yeah.
For kind of like your table camping, your family camp.
Oh yeah, absolutely, that's true.
Those are so much more efficient
Than just a
in
wide
fuel
open
use
barbecue where you're
than a
losing
wide
all
open
this.
barbecue. I mean,
Now, if you got to roast a big turkey or chicken or something, yeah, close the hood and make an oven out of the barbecue, right?
yeah, insulate it and do whatever you need to do to make sure it's going to work better. But you're still burning and using a lot of gas you don't unnecessarily.
Yeah, and so I think we're talking about what could you have in your car. You could definitely have a backpacking stove in your car. At home, what are we using to cook our foods at home in our shelter in place scenario, right, or even our bug out scenario? And there's a lot of really cool products out there. One I got at the very first year of PrepperCon, the Titan Ready USA, the Herc, the Eco
Herc
Herc
oven.
You should see this thing. It's one of the coolest things ever. It works off of tea light candles.
Yeah, those little tea candles that you see at IKEA that they
use
sell
to
in
light your
packs of 40.
pumpkins, right?
Yeah, those things will burn for almost 4 hours.
And basically the way this thing works is, depending on the size of the model that they make, it's this stainless steel oven. You put it together, and you can put your food inside of it, and you put these candles in a little tray underneath it, and the heat from the candles rises up and gets this oven to like 300
325
degrees, somewhere around there.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's not like a 500 degree. You're not going to be able to.
Broil
It's going
or-
to take longer to cook anything. But here's the cool thing: it's almost smokeless. Those tea candles do.
They
so
are pretty
little
cool.
smoke.
I have used it before. There are little issues. You have to kind of get practice with this thing because
And
all
adjust the heat and move
adjust the
them
heat a
around.
little bit. But the tea light candles, they do melt, and the wax is flammable, so you can get flame ups, and so that puts off a lot of smoke. So I would suggest cooking in your
true.
garage and not in the house when it does
Any
flame
of these
up.
scenarios, you want to make sure you're cooking outside, not
Either
in
outside,
your house.
although you can cook inside with this tea light candle setup with the
You can,
the
but
Herc, but
it's
I
not
still don't
recommended
recommend
unless you have good air.
Yeah. And with
movement.
candles, it's definitely safer than you like cooking with propane or whatever else. But in a pinch, you could, if you're careful, you could cook inside with this and use that as a heat source for your house too. So.
And it's a lot more efficient than even cooking
yeah.
on the top of a wood stove.
Yeah, I went and bought I've literally got hundreds of these tea light candles now that just go down to Walmart and I bought a pack of them for a couple of bucks.
Yeah,
That
$6
lasts-
you can get 40 of them.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've got a whole section of the closet full of those. Even before I had the Herc oven, I got those because you can make a room heating solution out of terracotta pots.
Yeah,
Just those red pots, stacking them, putting a bolt through the middle of them. There's ways
making
you
a
can do that
radiant
online.
heat type system.
But that'll create a radiant heat source where with 3 candles you can actually keep your room warm. Obviously, close the doors.
Take the chill off at least.
It'll
yeah.
keep your room warm long enough for you to get through the night.
Mhm.
And
Definitely.
you'll have to wake up in the middle of the night and swap out and get more candles in there because they only last 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But if you stagger them, you won't go dark and cold right away.
So what else? What other cooking methods? This is something I wanted to spend a little bit of time on. Is what other cooking methods, other than maybe a barbecue at your home?
So my
would you
backpacker
recommend?
one, I used that when we did the Ready Man Challenge.
yep.
I took that with us, and pretty much
Little butane.
almost
stove.
everybody on the team used it to get either warm or make their breakfast.
Yeah, again, not everybody needs to have a stove.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe
And so-
everybody carries a canister of fuel,
That's a great
but
idea
not
because
necessarily the stove.
and that one I was using the white fuel on that one. And it'll take just about any type of fuel. I can hook it up to propane. I can hook it up to white fuel,
Butane or what?
butane,
Multi-fuel stoves. are
multi
very
fuel.
cool.
And I've
Yeah.
had that since I was a Boy Scout.
Mhm.
That it folds almost flat. It stores. It's like 3 inches by 2 inches by 1.25 inches. It's so tiny.
Yeah. If you have a bug out bag, you plan on bugging out. That's I think what I would recommend to take with you if you're not just going to start fires along the way, right? Because that's always an option to have. Have the tools to make a fire.
Absolutely.
But that's very inefficient cooking.
So the more efficient you can be, the better it's going to be for you. I mean, there's other products like you can get like the Bear River Rocket Stoven.
Yep.
And it's called a stoven because it's ovens
Oven
and stoves, and it's almost smokeless, and they use twigs. They've like over-engineered this. This is not like anything you can pack away.
No. This
This
thing
is for your
a couple thousand
community
pounds.
response. I mean, you're spending between $3,000 and $8,000 depending on which system you're getting. But dude, you can cook hundreds of pancakes. You can cook hundreds of burgers.
And it's a wood burning stove is what it is, and it's a rocket stove. concept essentially.
Yep.
But yeah, this thing is huge. And they make different sizes.
And they put them on casters so you can roll them around. But that is another cooking source. Now, this isn't your bug out like, hey, I'm going to carry this with me one.
Not at all.
This is when you're at your shelter, the shelter in place, final destination where you're staying. This is the way to take care of food for large groups.
You know what my favorite rocket stove is? It's called the EcoZoom Versa. It looks like a number 10 can. It's about that size. It looks more like a paint can. And it's got a burner on top. It's an insulated can, so you've got a smaller center core, and you've got a vent at the bottom and a door where you feed the wood in, the sticks. So essentially, jump online, check out this EcoZoom Versa. It's about 100, 125. And it's not. You wouldn't carry it, backpacking or bugging out. It's a little too heavy for that. But for your backyard or even if you're going to put it in your car, this thing is absolutely amazing. The twigs that fall off my tree is what I feed into this thing, and it'll it'll boil water in 7-8 minutes off of small sticks. You
Absolutely.
can put anything in there. I love this rocket stove, and it's another thing that complements my preps around the house.
And it's an efficiency point. Right?
Absolutely, super efficient.
You can also go Dutch oven route. Less efficient.
Yep.
But as long as you've got coals, you don't have to use charcoal briquettes, right? Light a few branches, break them down.
Get some coals.
As soon as they're coals, then they're functional. They're usable for Dutch oven cooking. And you can cook a million different things. You just have to understand and know how to make sure you're caring for those Dutch oven.
That's true.
Those are temperamental.
But they're also, you don't have to clean them like you do have to a stainless steel pot or whatever. Especially in an emergency preparedness setting, you cook in it, you kind of burn it off, you wipe it down, and it's ready for the next
round.
Exactly.
They're fastest
awesome.
turnaround.
So if you can have some briquettes in storage, they store for years. They're safe to store.
And so here's the myth about them. You look at the package, and they have an expiration date of less than a year. Now, what in there is degrading?
I don't know.
Well, if you're getting the easy lights,
right, they got
that fuel burn off is coming off. So that's typically those expiration dates on those. It's talking about the fuel additives that help it light easier. So you're going to have to be better at starting that fire, getting those coals hot enough that they burn and maintain that heat. But those expiration dates, doesn't mean anything for the briquette itself. It just means the additives on it are gone.
And what I love about my EcoZoom Versa stove is that it has a grate, so I can put charcoal on top of the grate and then put paper underneath it to more easily light that. And I can use it with either wood or with really lots of different types of fuel sources.
It's amazing how oxygen management is so key in cooking, right? Opening a vent to get more air into the fire so that it heats hotter so that you can cook longer. I mean, there's so many different factors that a lot of times cooking inside makes it harder. Open a window. Get new oxygen in there. You don't want to create more problems for you than you're creating solutions.
So yeah, I think those are some great recommendations for cooking, whether you're in you're bugging out with a vehicle or you're at home. Or I think as a minimalist, if you're bugging out, if you're bugging home, whatever it might be, just have your fire making tools, right? Have your ferro rod, your flint steel, whatever your preferred method is, your Bic lighters, which everybody should have their own fire kit.
Yeah, so, multiple fire kits.
Yeah, exactly.
My truck, I have 3 different fire kits. On my person, I sometimes have one, I sometimes don't. But I've always got one accessible, either in my car or at my home. At my home, I've probably got 12 different ways to start a fire.
See, I can always crack open a bullet, right? Pull it out and get the black powder there. And
as long as you can spark it.
Exactly,
right?
and then put a spark.
So there's so many different things. So let's continue on. Let's talk about other tools and other resources and other things you need to have. Obviously, water storage. That's simple. I don't think we really need to talk about it, but
right, because there's different ways you've got to be able to carry water in some scenarios, and otherwise you got to store it at home in your shelter in place scenario, or if you're going to bug out, you got to be able to have a way to purify water as you go.
Which we've talked about.
Filters.
The other thing is tablets. You can do iodine tablets, or you can also do the pool shock tablets.
I'd much rather filter than use tablets. Yeah,
filtering. Oh, it tastes so much better.
Yeah, and I think if you need to purify water, I think pool shock is a great way to go.
Great way to go.
And right now,
just a little bit.
You go down to Walmart, buy pool shock, and they don't have it off season.
On sale like crazy.
Yeah, because it's coming toward the end of the season. So that reminds me, I need to go grab some more.
You can also get it on Amazon year-round.
That's true. You can.
That's where we buy ours, because if you buy it in
otherwise,
bulk on there,
you'll have to go down to the spa store or the sale spas and buy an expensive bottle of a pool shock. And at that point, it's pretty expensive.
Or you can wait until they have the hot tub expo.
Oh, right.
The
buy
twice
bulk
annually.
bulk.
Yeah, buy it in bulk.
But you do have to know how to mix that, how to use it properly in order to disinfect water.
Absolutely. We've got a caller. Let's go ahead and take the call. Hey, thanks for calling K-Talk. You're on the air with Prepper Talk Radio. Have you got a question or comment for us?
Yeah. Hey, guys. I was a wilderness survival instructor.
Awesome.
And what we would do is we always had a little vial of bleach.
Absolutely.
With any gallon of water. And, I mean, we would pull out of cow tanks. We would pull out of, puddles. I drank out of a puddle one time.
We just hit our commercial break. Do you want to hang on while we finish the commercials and come back with us?
I can't. But, yeah, just push bleach, a bottle of bleach. Super cheap.
Bottle bleach. Perfect.
Cool.
Thank you so much for your call.
Catch you guys after the break.
Remember the good.
All right, well, we are back to Prepper Talk Radio.
Cough there. Still getting over the bronchitis.
Still fighting that bronchitis. The smoke from all the fires up north has come into the valley, and it's actually making it harder for me to heal from my bronchitis.
Can't even see across the valley.
So leads me to a good breathing system. N95 masks at a minimum.
Essential part of
Essential. It should be in
everyday kit.
Everyday stuff.
Yeah.
You should have some extra ones in your truck and car so you can hand them out, or if you've got passengers, also have a whole case of them at home.
In my business
Sealed.
bag, I call it my business bag, I have flat stored N95 masks in there. And in my vehicle, I have a respirator, an actual respirator, carbon filter that is much more heavy duty.
I've got mine at home. I should probably put it in my car.
Just leave it,
that's with me more
I'm
often.
not going to use that at home. If I'm going to use it, I'm going to be out and about, right?
So I'm typically planning on using it if I have to leave during something crappy. But you're right, it should be in my car.
But we need to get into
Which is a
pandemics
great
again
point.
another day.
Because we do this full-time, we are full-time preppers, but that's not our job, right? Because we do this full-time, we aren't perfect, so there's things that I may find that Shane's doing that I'm not doing that I'm like, oh, wow, I totally missed that. And listeners, you may call in and say something that I'm like, wow, yeah, I'm not doing that. I should do that.
Yeah, like this caller called in and talked about he just carried a little vial of bleach. I think that's a good idea as long as you're recycling that essentially or recirculating, because the bleach only has about a shelf life of about 6 months.
Yep.
So if you're going to go out in the field, then that'll work just fine. And then you can use that to purify your water. That's kind of what these tablets are, like the iodine, not the iodine tablets.
The pool shock.
Well, yeah, the pool shock, but also the what are the tablets? Yeah, they are chlorine, and essentially that's what they are is a crystallized chlorine that keeps for much longer. But they still have a shelf life, and you should really
Typically
pay attention
3
to that
years.
shelf life
But
of those.
I question anything that has a best by date or a expiration date, because they're typically built that way. If you watch documentaries, they do it this way so that they get you to go buy more. Canned food companies used to have a 5-year expiration date. Now they have a 6 to 7 month expiration date or best by date. Well, what's getting thrown out now? People are throwing out canned foods way before
There's nothing wrong with them.
they're bad. Right. I've talked to a couple of people like Becky Brown, who was on Doomsday Preppers, who did a huge research project to find out what the real shelf life is of canned foods. And she's like, it's longer than 5 years. In many cases, if it's canned correctly, you've got 10 to 15 years.
If not more.
If not more. I mean, I remember as a kid in Idaho, my grandpa had canned a bunch of meat, and it was almost 20 years old when he was opening it. And he was opening it because he couldn't remember what was in it. He didn't label it. I'm like, seriously? And he was making me eat it with him. I was 6 at the time. So he's attempted murder on his 6-year-old kid, right? But he's eating it too. But he's like, he found one can that was bulging and had some black goo coming out of it. And he's like, oh, crap, we can't have that one. He was sad about it. I was like, anything that oozes, I don't want to eat.
Don't be sad about it.
Yeah, don't be sad about it, because that's disgusting.
Yeah, absolutely.
You'll die.
So that brings up one topic. Throw some canned goods in your car. Why not? Make sure you have a can opener, right? I've always got one on my.
You don't need a can opener in your car.
Okay.
If you've got canned foods, you just pull over to the side of the road. All you need is a sidewalk.
Oh,
You
right,
can
right.
rub the can on
Rub
the
it on the
sidewalk,
sidewalk till it wears
until the
down.
little edges wear down, and then you can just pop it off.
That's true.
So you don't have to have a can opener, but it's always
so much
nice to
easier,
have.
yeah.
Most pocket knives,
Exactly. You have
Have
a
something.
multi-tool. You get a pocket knife. It's going to have a can opener.
you're good to go.
So, yeah, in that case, weight really doesn't matter much. Keep your favorite foods in your car in
So-
a canned form.
So let's talk shelter for a second.
Yeah.
On the body shelter,
Yeah,
which is coats.
Clothing.
We're getting into the cold season. It's coming. You know, it doesn't feel like it yet because we're getting a hot snap here in Utah.
yeah, it's way too warm.
But you need a good jacket in the winter. I mean, summer. Coat or layering system for the winter, and you should have extras in your bag, in your go bag, or with you on your person as you travel. Like I always have a coat in my car, whether I'm using it or not.
And this is another thing I don't go cheap on. I like Gore-Tex. It's more expensive. Shoot for a higher quality brand. I love the North Face, right? I've always loved North Face. It's a little more trendy now, but they make some pretty good outerwear. There are much higher quality ones. I love Mountain Hardwear.
Mountain
Really
Hardwear's
good brand.
great. Actually, used to sell
But
their
very
gear.
expensive. Arc'teryx, very expensive, but fantastic quality. I mean, those are expensive. And that's kind of why I like North Face. It's gotten less expensive, but it's still pretty good
So
quality.
I like
stuff.
Marmot.
Marmot is fantastic.
Typically I'll choose Marmot over a lot of the other ones because it's a little more affordable, and it's primarily shell gear.
Lightweight stuff.
So it's super lightweight. It's designed for backpacking, but it's shell gear. So it's designed to take multiple layers.
Work in layers. I think layers, obviously, that's the way. I don't buy a nice, big, thick coat unless I know it's specifically for winter in the snow, right?
Right. For example, I got a full weather gear system from, I just forgot the name of it.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Dale.
Yeah.
He's a stud. I'll come back to it.
It'll
but
come back to us.
It's Fortress clothing.
Fortress clothing, there we go.
And it's designed for
Cold weather
cold, like
specifically, yeah.
negative 20 cold weather, keep you toasty.
Yeah,
and no heating sources
In an emergency
needed.
situation, if you're outside and you're doing rescue or or you're bugging out in winter, that's the kind of stuff you really need.
But for most purposes,
Right.
99.85% of the time, you just want a really good coat system that is watertight, that's not going to let water come through. While it's snowing, sleeting, raining, hailing, whatever, it's not coming through, it's not getting you wet. Because when you get wet, that's when you die. That's when you are truly exposed.
Either from sweat or from rain, getting water on the outside. So stay dry, stay dry, stay dry. Especially in cold weather. In summer, it's not so critical, but staying dry is still going to make your experience so much more wonderful than being wet and miserable in an emergency. Again, we've talked about comfort all the time in an emergency. It allows you to have a good peace of mind, have a good good mindset,
And
if you're comfortable and have the right gear.
And that wet from sweat is a key point that I think a lot of people forget. They'll, like for example, when we did the Ready Man Challenge, I used the Survival Frog bivy bag. It's just Mylar blankets.
It's not breathable.
Together. It's not breathable. That kept me warm until I started sweating.
Because you got all the moisture still
And the
collecting
moisture
inside the bag.
evaporated in the bag to the top of the bag and then weighted down the inside of the bag, and then it hit my back because I was laying on my stomach, and it got my back wet. And eventually that seeped through into my skin, and that's when I got cold.
So let's talk about take that to the next level of the other layers of clothing, right?
Yep, you want a wicking layer.
Exactly. So if you're getting wet, that layer directly against your skin needs to wick away the moisture, which basically just pulls it away from your skin. So you want to avoid cotton at all costs. Everyday cotton is obviously very comfortable, but the more, I guess, modern fabrics, call them whatever you want, polyesters, synthetics and such, are still great comfortable. And that's kind of what I try to wear every day because you never know what's going to happen. So, those of you who
Here I am
work
in
at an
cotton,
office,
there you are in polyester.
I'm all polyester here, and lycra, spandex. No, and so I mean, those of you who work in an office, right? You're wearing slacks, you're wearing a button-down shirt,
which are great.
Most likely, those are all synthetic, polyester or whatever. And yeah, you may look a little goofy in while you're starting a fire, right? Wearing your business suit, but or even a wool business suit. Fantastic survival clothing, right?
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting. I mean, you throw back. You're always saying, if you want to be better in the future, look back to the past, right? What's your exact phrase? I forgot right now.
To prepare for the future, you need to look to the past.
Now, look back 100 years ago. Everybody looked formal.
No,
even
that's
when
true.
they're working in the field.
The pioneers walking across in their dresses and their
Because
their
those wool, heavy-duty clothing that was designed to look good
and last
and
a long
last
time.
forever, we've kind of gotten away from that because we're like, well, we want something fancy.
lightweight and
snazzy.
comfortable and
That stuff works wonders, and wearing those quality clothing items will take better care of you in a disaster than just your dime store crap.
So yeah, just look on the label. Is it cotton or is it polyester? Is it mostly polyester, a little bit of cotton? I mean, whatever. You're definitely better for wicking, for moisture, even for wear and tear. Polyester holds up better than cotton with abrasion.
Oh, yeah.
So look at your wardrobe, and yeah, maybe you're a little formal, but most likely it's going to be good for wicking and good for your in a survival situation.
And I love the ripstop fly fishing shirts.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's all synthetic. It's
Lightweight.
polyester, lightweight.
Button down, you can
breathes
look a little more
easy,
business-like with it, right?
But they
But
are
secretly,
tough.
secretly you're prepared for any disaster, right? And nobody knows it.
Nobody knows that they think I'm going to go fishing.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Or you're just in a business meeting with a nice button down. Yeah, I mean, these shirts can be pretty expensive, though. I mean,
They can be. But a lot of them are 50-50 blends.
okay.
So you want to make sure you're getting a
Much
higher
polyester.
blend count where it's more polyester. I mean, there's 80-20s I've got.
Most likely you're going to get wet in a disaster, but if it dries out quickly, obviously think about wading out of the water wearing jeans. Those things never dry out.
Nope.
But you wear
Never,
a set
ever.
of slacks in there, in a couple hours they'll be dried out.
The jeans will hold the water. They'll also deform, so they won't wear correctly.
they'll stretch.
So then you'll get rubbing that
Yep.
you didn't have. You'll have other
uncomfortable.
problems that'll come up as a result of wearing that.
Okay, we only got a few minutes left. What should we go to next?
Well,
We were talking a little bit about shelter in place is kind of what I wanted to focus on maybe
Yeah.
on next. And we talked a little bit about, of course, the survival medical kits. At home, I have Alpha buckets, Birth buckets, and there's also Bravo buckets as
buckets.
well. And so these hold a multitude of different kits in them for long-term storage alongside of your food storage.
yeah.
And that's something, especially in a large disaster like an earthquake, which we're going to have, or these hurricanes. That's your go-to, man.
Oh,
That's
fires. We live in a
Yeah.
very wooded area, and then there's also a dense grouping of homes. Well, if a major fire hits, it's not hard for a fire to jump from one house to the next because there's usually a tree in between them. There's some kind of kindling that's going to launch the fire into the next house.
But then also most of the damage from a fire comes from the water that gets doused, put on the house, right? So if you've got your first aid kits and your food storage all in buckets, in plastic buckets, right? They're going to survive. You won't have to replace them.
Yeah, as long as they don't get melted,
Yeah, by the fire, exactly.
right? So if it's just the water, I mean, perfect. And anything you are storing, I love going the route of waterproofing everything I've got. Even in my bags, I've got water bags for different
Just
things,
Ziploc, heavy-duty
Ziplocs.
freezers, Ziploc type bags.
And some
yeah.
some of them are double zipped, some of them are single zip. Some of them are double bagged. But it's depending on what it is and if it's
critical it is.
okay to get wet or not. So make sure that you're taking those precautions because anything can happen. And the better prepared you are for anything, the less you're going to worry about everything.
Hey, here's something I want to hit real quick that is, I think, for shelter in place, this is, for me, is essential because we all need some electricity. We all need some power. So I'd love these battery packs. What do you want to call them? A solar generator kit, right? That's what they call them, solar generators, because you can plug panels into it, and it's a lithium-ion battery or to whatever kind of battery. Yeah, Goal Zero makes them. Lion Energy makes them. Humless. This is a really cool tool because for my kids, if the power goes out, they get a little nervous. And how cool is that to bring that in the house, plug all your devices into it, and, you're watching TV or listening to radio, you can still enjoy a lot of the comforts.
You're not watching TV.
Yeah, my kids.
You're watching recorded movies,
Well, yes.
but you're not watching TV.
And it depends on the level of emergency, right?
If the power's out, what's getting cable to your house?
I'm plugged into the box.
That'll go out too.
Okay, we're watching movies. I mean, the kids are more comforted that way. And you can even plug your fridge into these things
Yeah, some of them.
without starting a
Some of
noisy
it works,
generator and
some
such.
of it doesn't. So you got to make sure you're paying attention to that. We're out of time.
Not enough time, man.
We need another 3 hours today.
do.
Hey, thank you for listening to Prepper Talk Radio. We are radio for the ready-minded. We're so grateful for you listeners, and thanks for those that called in today. Stay tuned next week. We're going to have a big, fun show. And make sure if you're in Utah this weekend, hit up the Utah Preparedness Expo at Southtown
Yes.
Expo Center. Today and tomorrow.
Starts today at 2, goes
goes
through
till-
9, and then tomorrow all day.
Hey, guys, it's Scott and